Battle Through the Heavens God, the Flame Emperor Chapter 33, Warcraft Ruins Open. Xiao Yan also found the girl who was following him, and immediately took Yuru around a few times to get rid of the girl. Ah, I'm so pissed off, why did I lose it? That little beast is really powerful. The girl stomped her feet when she realized that she was embarrassed by Xiao Yan. According to Yura, the demonic beast mountain range outside Qingcheng, also known as the Ice and Snow Mountain Range, should be the most majestic mountain range Xiao Yan has seen in so many years. The thick cloud and mist shrouded most of the mountain range, making it difficult for people to see what it contained. Moreover, there seemed to be an extremely vast energy contained in the cloud and mist. Under this huge energy, even Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel a little chilled. No wonder, no one dared to fly in from a high altitude. The road in the sky is simply a dead end. Standing high in the sky, looking down at the entry point of the mountain range below, and looking at the nearly dense sea of pitch black, Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel a little scalp tingling. Although he knew that the so-called great creation's temptation would certainly not be small, when he saw such a huge after the crowd, he was still astonished. To get a pitifully small chance from these countless people, this difficulty is really not ordinary. With a worried smile, Xiao Yan took Yuro and Xiao Yi on his shoulders to choose a remote place, then lowered his body and jumped off the mountain. In a few flashes, a tree top appeared outside the snow mountain range. Above, his eyes seemed to swipe, and he found that there were actually many people sitting cross-legged on the top of the surrounding trees. Because the Ice and Snow Mountain Range are surrounded by clouds and mist all year round, and there are many powerful monsters, there are only 3 safe entry points, and the place where Xiao Yan is now is one of them, but the current entrance has been blocked, occupied by a sea of people. Just when Xiao Yan was sighing secretly at this huge scene, a clear and loud crane chirping suddenly resounded from the distant sky, and immediately attracted countless gazes around him. Xiao Yan also followed his gaze, only to see in the distance, a giant crane with colorful energy, flapping its giant wings, swiftly flying towards one of the 3 entrances of the Ice and Snow Mountain Range, the sun shining on the colorful crane. On the feathers, the reflections are dazzling and brilliant. Has the seal finally weakened? Xiao Yan looked at the energy storm at the entrance and couldn't help but ask. The next time was spent waiting as always, and when this kind of waiting lasted for nearly 3 days, the energy between this world suddenly became turbulent. At the moment when the energy of the earth just changed, Xiao Yan, who was sitting cross-legged on the top of the tree, suddenly opened his slightly closed eyes, and a strange look flashed past his eyes. Is it finally time to start? Huge mountains shrouded in mist. At this moment, just like an ancient beast that is about to wake up, a series of low rumbling sounds came from the high sky of the mountain range, and accompanied by this loud noise, there was also the overwhelming energy. Wow! In the dense cloud and mist, the vast energy surged rapidly, and at the end, there was even the sound of waves like the surging of the ocean waves. This strange scene made many people exclaim in amazement. Nature is indeed full of wonders. The huge energy tide, accompanied by surging, after a while, actually rushed out of the cloud and mist, and quickly spread out, scaring some figures who stayed in the sky hurriedly swept down. If they were caught by the terrifying energy tide sweeping in, even a strong Dode would have to peel off his skin if he didn't die. The huge energy tide turns into colorful colors. Under the sunlight, it is like a spacious and colorful river. Hanging across the sky, it is extremely gorgeous, but under this gorgeousness, there is a deadly crisis hidden. Huge waves of colorful energy continued to spread out from the mountain range. At this moment, many people could feel that the energy in the Ice and Snow Mountain Range gradually became violent and majestic. It looks like the Ice and Snow Mountains have turned into a magnet, attracting all the energy between the nearby heaven and earth. Facing such a spectacular scene, even Xiao Yan couldn't help but be filled with astonishment. With his extraordinary soul perception, he could feel more clearly that the energy in the colorful tide had reached a certain level. What a terrifying level! As expected of the Dode continent of the upper plane. Such a marvelous scene, how can you see it in other places? With a chuckle, Xiao Yan stood up and turned his eyes to the Ice and Snow Mountains range. At this moment, the energy in the mountains has grown to an astonishing level. It would not take too long to cultivate here, but it is sure to get twice the result with half the effort. No wonder so many people are still attracted after knowing that the big opportunity cannot be snatched. Let's practice some ideas. His eyes shifted from the mountain range, and finally stopped at the place where the mountain range entered. There, the huge sea of people has begun to move. No matter where it is, the first one always has special benefits. The one who enters it will have the best effect, so everyone wants to be the luckiest first. Looking at the sea of people, Xiao Yan smiled slightly, and there was a hint of fiery in his eyes. This time, the big chance battle was somewhat beyond his expectations. Presumably this competition will be quite exciting, and he also want to try it, this young generation near Qingcheng in the Xianling continent. What step can we really reach? How much difference is there between you and them? Boom. While Xiao Yan's thoughts were turning, a burst of chaotic and loud footsteps and loud roars suddenly sounded, and even when he saw the huge sea of people, it suddenly roared and moved, turning into a stream of people, rushing into the mountain range crazily. Yura, go to the ruins and follow me closely. Let's go to your destination first. As for the chance, there is no hurry. Although this great chance has a huge temptation, it also has a fatal threat. Xiao Yan said. Yura was also aware of Xiao Yan's plan, so she couldn't help but nodded somewhat moved, and said, everything is up to you. For a while, the entire periphery of the ice and snow mountain range became violent at this moment, because everyone present knew that the so-called great fortune would be gone when it was too late. Thinking of heaven and hell, the great opportunity is right in front of you, and maybe there is the incomparable attraction of the Xianling royal family. How can the people present not be moved? Chapter 34, Preliminary Fight. Inside the ice and snow mountain range, the temperature is low, and the fog is lingering. The fog is mixed with a little violent energy, which greatly restricts people's sight. In the quiet mountain range, two figures broke through the woods and swept in, and immediately landed lightly, revealing a young face, which was Xiao Yan. Let's go this way. Xiao Yan. Yuro pointed the way. Xiao Yan and Xiao Yi also turned their heads when they heard the words. The most important thing now is to go to the place that Yuro said, and don't worry about that big opportunity. What is Miss Yuro looking for? Xiao Yan also asked curiously. Although Yuro's father, Yuyo, said that she was looking for something in this ruin, Xiao Yan still doesn't know what she was looking for. What I'm looking for is crescent moon green fruit. Yuro gritted her teeth slightly. Crescent moon green fruit? Xiao Yan said with a frown. My father spent a lot of money to collect information. In this relic, there are not only opportunities left by a senior, but also many treasures, among which the emperor-level magic core you need is also among them. And our Yu family has inherited the inheritance since ancient times, but it lacks this vital medicine. Crescent moon green fruit. Yuro bit her lips and said to Xiao Yan, even though her father repeatedly explained not to tell Xiao Yan about it, but Xiao Yan saved her father, and Yuro didn't plan to hide it from Xiao Yan. Crescent moon green fruit? This is a good thing. You kid don't know it. In addition to some wonders of the world, there are also some special medicines. Their effects are to accept inheritance or break the seal. We call it medicine introduction. This crescent green fruit is a good thing. It is the representative of the moon. It seems that there is some background behind this little girl named Yuro, otherwise such an ancient inheritance would not be given to her. The voice of the Golden Dragon King came from the ring. After walking slowly into the lane, he followed the map and entered a mountain range. The information on the map showed that crescent moon green fruit was hidden here. The mountain in front of them seemed to have someone in front for a long time, and some ferocious beasts were cleaned up in an instant. As expected of the outstanding young people who are within 100 miles of Qingcheng, he does have some skills. Falling to the ground, Xiao Yan glanced ahead, laughed in his heart, and immediately turned his eyes to the surroundings. His brows could not help but wrinkle. The energy mist is too thick, and the Beast Mountain range are so vast, it is not easy to reach the depths of the crescent moon green fruit. Don't worry, follow them and let them take the lead. Xiao Yan also saw Yuro's worries, and hurriedly spoke to comfort. Yeah. Yuro also knew that thinking too much was useless, so she immediately restrained her breath and followed Xiao Yan to prepare to wait for an opportunity. Between Xiao Yan's frown, a graceful colorful shadow also fell into the mountain range, and the beautiful eyes swept away, and instantly stopped on a back knot. Far ahead, feeling the slight movement behind him, Xiaoyan didn't turn his head, but when he moved, he swiftly walked away directly into the mountain range. Stop! Seeing that Xiaoyan was going to leave, the woman in the colorful dress immediately shouted coldly. Xiaoyan didn't seem to hear her shouting, but his footsteps accelerated. Swoosh! Just as the pace quickened, a sound of breaking wind suddenly resounded behind him. Xiaoyan's face was slightly cold, and his footsteps made a mistake. A colorful silk satin with strong winds smeared its head and shot out, and finally pierced a towering giant tree in front of it. Although the colored satin seems to be made of cloth, it has a faint metallic luster, which is obviously not an ordinary thing. Seeing Xiaoyan's strange steps to avoid his own attack, a strange luster flashed in the beautiful eyes of the woman in the colorful dress. With a flick of her jade hand, another colorful silk and satin shot out from her sleeve, like a poisonous snake, winding in the air, twisted and wrapped around Xiaoyan cunningly. Faced with this woman's constant entanglement, Xiaoyan's heart was also filled with some anger. He suddenly turned around, his arm flashed out with lightning, grabbed the burst of silk, milky white flames emerged from his palm, and immediately followed the silk, turning into a line of fire, shoot directly at the former. Seeing the line of fire coming, the cheeks of the woman in the colorful skirt were also slightly cold, and a burst of blue and silver alternated, as if the powerful douqi, formed by the fusion of strong wind and thunder, also shot out along the silk and satin, and finally collided with the line of fire. Bang! A low-pitched explosion erupted in the quiet mountain range, and the aftermath of the two strong and powerful waves directly shook a lot of surrounding dense fog away, and there was a pit more than half a meter deep in the open space. At this moment, a lot of people have begun to break into the mountain range. When they heard the movement, they all rushed forward. When they saw that the person who left was actually the famous Miss Feng Yi, they were all shocked. Surprised eyes turned to the strange man on the opposite side. The person who could fight with her would definitely not be an ordinary person. The douqi formed by the fusion of the wind and thunder attributes? The name of Miss Feng Lei Cheng is indeed well-deserved. Although the colorful silk satin has experienced such a violent energy impact, it has never broken like this. Xiaoyan's eyes are fixed on the woman in the colorful skirt. He didn't expect that this woman actually has two types of attributes. This type of element may not be as rare as the wolf-full poison body, but it is also quite rare. To be honest, Xiaoyan can also be counted as two types of attributes. The attributes of fire and wood, of course, its element is that fire accounts for the majority, and a little bit of wood, of course. This is the case for every alchemist, because it is a necessary condition. The element of the two attributes is actually not very suitable for cultivation, because it is not pure, but for Xiaoyan's it is not bad, because there is only a little wood energy in his body, but the woman in front of him not only can cultivate both part, but also actually have the perfect fusion of the two attributes of douqi. The power suddenly soared. You can break my attack, you are also very powerful. The woman in the colorful dress stared at the thin young man in front of her. With beautiful eyes, suddenly smiled, and stretched out her flawless white hand and said softly, "Go out and rely on friends, make a friend, my name is Feng Yi." As soon as these words came out, the people around them were shocked. They knew how arrogant are the eldest lady of Fenglei City in front of them, and now she actually reached out to a strange man to make friends. "Hello, I'm Xiaoyan." Xiaoyan also stretched out his hand to the woman in front of him. The two held it tightly, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. The soul of the emperor, as expected, is right with each other. Miss Feng Yi's soul is not weak. After speaking, they both released their hands in unison. "Let's go, Yuero." Feng Yi also greeted Yuero, who was beside him. It's really hard to meet someone who is interesting, but it seems that his soul power is stronger than mine. However, if you want to be my man, you can't just have a strong soul. Follow them, I want to see what they are going to do if they have a good chance. The woman in the colorful skirt said. "But miss, the master told me before coming out that we should focus on chance. I'll say one more thing. Follow them." The woman in the colorful dress frowned slightly, even though she followed Xiaoyan. And Chapter 35, Real and Fake Crescent Moon Green Fruit. While entering the depths of the mountain range, they suddenly found a lake. There was a small island on the lake. On the island, there was a slender crystal clear plant, exuding a huge and pleasant smell. Where should it be? Xiao Yan and Yuero found that the number of people was getting smaller and smaller on the way to this mountain range. This fog is poisonous. Xiao Yan immediately understood why the number of people became less and less as he went deeper. It turned out to be the cause of the fog. No. Xiao Yan handed a medicinal pill to Yuero, and then the Emperor's soul power was fully deployed, and he carefully probed into the lake. Generally speaking, wherever there are wonders of heaven and earth, there will be guardians, so it is better to be careful in everything. Why didn't you find it? Xiao Yan couldn't help muttering to himself, and then he gave Yuero a few heavy instructions and went straight to the small island in the lake. His body burst into the clear lake like a fish. Xiao Yan glanced at the milky white flames outside his body, and couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Under the temperature, the surrounding lake water has been rolling like boiling water, and while the milky white blisters are constantly bubbling, wisps of dark purple liquid that is difficult to detect with the naked eye slowly emerge. But when these dark purple liquids are about to be contact with the milky white flame, it was frozen by Xiao Yi into extremely small ice strands, and then slowly fell into the bottom of the lake. Xiao Yan's scalp felt numb as he looked at the small purple ice strands that kept appearing all over his body. He didn't expect that this seemingly peaceful lake would secretly hide so much deadly poison. Hurry up, these dark purple liquid are extremely poisonous. Although the protection of a heavenly fire can prevent them from entering the body, it is too much for my soul power. Just as Yuero was amazed, a deep voice suddenly sounded in Xiao Yan. Huh, she nodded hurriedly, and then followed Xiao Yan's feet. She floated to the surface, looked at the small island in the center of the lake, and let out a sigh of relief, while she swept her arms rapidly, leaving no water mark on her body and gradually approaching the lake. Looking at the perfect figure in the water that was highlighted because the clothes were wet, Xiao Yan couldn't help swallowing because of his concentration. The two mountain peaks below the cherry mouth were about to stand, and there was only a trace of silk tightly sticking to the white and flawless skin. It sets off a different kind of taste. He paddled smoothly all the way to the position that was close to the island in the center of the lake, and just when Xiao Yan was about to breathe a sigh of relief, the calm lake in front of him suddenly burst into the sky. Tight, raised his head and stared at the place where the spray burst, and after a moment, his pupils suddenly shrank. The water splashes gradually fell. In an instant, a giant snake with green scales all over its body and a triangular-shaped head suddenly rushed out from the bottom of the lake, then opened its huge mouth and bit Xiao Yan fiercely. There was a wild ferocity in his pupils. 3000 lightning movement. When the ferocious giant snake's mouth was about to attack Xiao Yan, a lightning-fast movement technique flashed, causing the giant snake to rush into the air. Illusory golden demon python? The golden dragon king's exclamation came from inside the ring. Master, what is that? Xiao Yan also felt a strange power from the python's attack just now. Illusory golden demon python. This is a powerful magical beast known for its soul power. Their most powerful power is neither the body nor the strength, but the power of the soul. The illusory golden demon python has a profound knowledge of soul power. It has been able to use its soul power to create a perfect illusion, which makes it sleepy for a long time and does not want to wake up. That's what makes it terrifying. But fortunately, your soul strength is not weak, and it is protected by a heavenly fire, so it can't cause too much damage to you. The violent factor of the heavenly fire is naturally the biggest nemesis of these dark attribute snakes. You can look at other companions, have fallen into this illusion now. The Golden Dragon King looked at the ferocious giant snake in front of him and said, I'll hold it back, hurry up, and fetch the crescent moon green fruit. Xiao Yan also gritted his teeth and said to Yuero, although the illusory gold demon python in front of him was comparable to a 4-star dote, but with the blessing of his own heavenly fire, it was not difficult to fight, so he immediately said to Yuero, bang, bang, bang. The figure violently swept towards the island. There were a few violent waves bursting behind him, which was the momentum caused by the failure of the giant snake's attack. Xiao Yan didn't pay too much attention to the strong aura behind him. With the help of this impact, he escaped several attacks from giant snakes, and finally he was only 10 meters away from the island. Glancing back from the corner of his eyes, he found that the giant snake was chasing all the way with its huge mouth open. With a slight sneer, Xiao Yan flicked his finger to accept the ring, and a wooden board fell into the water surface. A moment before it was about to be corroded by the venom in the lake, Xiao Yan's toes touched it. His body sank slightly, and then violently again shot out. A moment later, finally entered the scope of the island. His body volleyed over, his feet squatted slightly. Both palms pressed lightly on the ground and landed steadily. Stepping on the island with his soul, Xiao Yan glanced back and found that from the time it entered a 10-meter range around the island, the ferocious giant snake was a little scared and did not dare to move forward, swaying on its tail outside the island. The wanderer, spitting out a scarlet snake letter, glared at Xiao Yan fiercely, and kept wandering around the island. Looking at the slowly calming lake and the giant snake still guarding the island, Xiao Yan breathed a sigh of relief, turned around, and looked at the small island, which is not very large, which are planted with lush bamboo forests and some flowers and plants, which look vibrant and beautiful. Have you found it, Yuro? Xiao Yan finally broke free from the giant snake and hurriedly went to the island to ask this. Looking at the few round fruits on the crystal-clear little tree in front of her, Yuro couldn't help falling into contemplation. According to the information his father gave her, shouldn't crescent moon green fruit look like this? Could it be that this crescent moon has mutated due to the environment? Thanks to the two of you for leading the way. A gloomy laughter emerged from the void, and Yuro took away all the fruits on the small tree at the moment of her fascination. Looking carefully, under the white curtain on his cheeks, a young face that was pale and bloodless emerged. His eyes were gray, and his body seemed to be wrapped in the aura of death, which made people shudder. Farewell, there will be an appointment later. After speaking, he disappeared on the island like a ghost. When Xiao Yan first saw the mysterious man, he felt a strong strength, but the ancient ruler of the fire behind him was about to shoot, but was gently suppressed by Yuru's small hand. It wasn't the crescent moon green fruit that person. Chapter 36, Under the Lake Adventure. Huh? Xiao Yan was also startled, then looked at Yuro in front of him. I think the real crescent moon green fruit should still be in this lake. Yuro thought carefully. Master, what should we do now? Xiao Yan also asked anxiously. Oh, your blood. Take a drop of your blood and throw it at the illusory golden monster python. Hurry up. The golden dragon King's hurried voice came from the ring. Xiao Yan is also not a person with ink marks. As soon as he gritted his teeth with his fingers, a drop of scarlet blood was thrown at the illusory golden monster python. When the illusory golden monster python felt the drop of Xiao Yan's blood just a moment ago, it was as if the blood in the whole body of the giant python had coagulated. Colorful sky. Swallowing python? The illusory gold monster python had already surrendered to Xiao Yan, because it clearly felt the aura of this human being. The colorful sky swallowing python was the most powerful race of the snake clan, and the illusory gold monster python were dare to be presumptuous. Among the beasts, the bloodline has always been oppressive, so when he knew that Xiao Yan possessed the blood of the seven-colored swallowing python, the eldest brother of the illusory gold monster python, with his eyes wide open, also respected Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan looked at the illusory golden demon python and said, "Take us to the crescent moon green fruit." When the giant snake heard Xiao Yan's words, it also responded with a bang bang bang, as if he was saying to follow me. Then he slammed into the lake, as if there was something at the bottom of the lake. Xiao Yan floated in the icy lake, looking at the dark brown water flowing slowly around his body with surprise. A huge bubble slowly emerged beside him. Then, with a loud bang, it exploded, and some water jets splashed onto Xiao Yan's face, but in an instant, it was swallowed up by the layer of milky white flames. Why is there such a hot temperature in the blisters? Is there a world at the bottom of this lake? Xiao Yan looked at the giant snake that crashed into the lake and muttered to himself. Yuro, wait for me here, I'll follow it down to sea. Xiao Yan didn't hesitate. Under the protection of the milky white flame all over his body, he directly slammed into the lake like a giant snake. Be careful, safety is the main priority. Yuru's voice echoed on the lake. Looking at the giant snake that makes ripples in the lake, Xiao Yan let out a sigh of relief before diving into the lake. Hang tightly behind the fire spirit snake. As soon as he entered the lake, an icy feeling swept over him, and then he called out the body of a heavenly fire, and all the water pressure and air pressure in the outside world seemed to be separated. A somewhat cold feeling hovering around the body, but it does not feel cold at all. Through the isolation of the heavenly fire, the palms easily picked up some dark brown water, then let them slowly flow down from between his fingers. Xiao Yan smacked his lips in amazement. Such close contact with the water flow really made people feel a little creepy and cold in their hearts. If the protective cover of this flame suddenly dissipated now, then go down on your own. Xiao Yan shuddered violently at the thought of being frozen like a statue. His face turned slightly pale. Big guy, hurry up. Xiao Yan also followed the giant snake and dived to the bottom of the lake, but the pressure of the lake became stronger and the air became thinner as he went down, making Xiao Yan unable to help but frown slightly at the giant snake in front of him. The illusory golden demon python seemed to understand Xiao Yan's meaning, and hurriedly spat out a snake letter, and then the speed was skyrocketing, straight to the bottom of the lake. Although the heavenly fire can temporarily protect me, it will consume a lot of soul power. After all, if you lose the soul energy to maintain them, even if you are not swallowed by the water flow, it will instantly oppress the ashes. Therefore, I can't waste precious time. Before my soul energy is exhausted, I must leave this icy lake. Otherwise, the ice sculpture I thought of before will really become a reality. As the giant snake continued to advance, Xiao Yan's mind quickly calculated. The corners of Xiao Yan's mouth twitched a few times, then he turned around in a dignified manner, looked at the huge giant python not far away, and said with a big laugh, "Big man, hurry up. 1,000 meters. 2,000 meters. 3 kilometers. Xiao Yan gradually felt that breathing was a little difficult. Indeed, a normal person would experience difficulty breathing when he dived to 2,000 meters. Xiao Yan was able to dive to 3,000 meters because of his physical fitness and strength. Damn it! Why not yet? Xiao Yan cursed as he looked at the giant python that was still diving in front of him. 3,000 meters is already approaching Xiao Yan's limit as a human being. If it goes down, it is a forbidden area of life, because it has surpassed human cognition, and there may be many unknown crises. Xiao Yan can't help but frown slightly. 3,100 meters. The diving speed is also oppressed by the pressure of the water current at the bottom of the lake, which is getting slower and slower. Damn it. 5 minutes. Go back if you don't have it. Xiao Yan couldn't help roaring in his heart. 3,200 meters. 5 minutes passed quietly. Xiao Yan found that his grudge seemed to be burning violently, as if something was attracting it. This situation? It can only be the same flame power. Old bastard. The last 3 minutes. Xiao Yan also gritted his teeth and said dive to 3,300 meters, and the illusory golden monster python also stopped and stood blankly, and then shed its skin. The giant snake was black at first, but now it has shed its skin and replaced it with golden skin. It swims towards the world of flames, not afraid of the scorching heat. Xiao Yan had not had time to take a breath just now, when a scorching hot breath rushed towards his face. Looking around, when you dived to 3,300 meters, it was a scorching magma world. It was fiery red, but with the continuous support of Xiao Yi's flame, Xiao Yan could barely see some of the surrounding environment. Drilling serpent. 1 ice, 1 fire, 2 heavens. There must be a rare treasure under the lava here. The Golden Dragon King in the ring has been paying attention to Xiao Yan's state. If something goes wrong, he will immediately take action, but when he finds that there is icy lake water above and hot water below in the world of flames, Jinlong couldn't help but be surprised by Jinlong's extensive knowledge. Xiao Yan obviously also knew that the Golden Dragon King cared about him. If he wanted to become a strong man, he was destined to rely on himself, and he could not become a strong man by relying on others. There was no shortcut for a strong man. Don't talk nonsense, follow the giant snake first. It has lived for so many years and must be very familiar with it. Don't lose it. The Golden Dragon King's tone was full of fiery. Xiao Yan didn't dare to be careless when he heard that. Even though he was perplexed, he had to hurriedly follow the giant snake. But fortunately, the giant snake is obviously very familiar with the terrain here. Before the undercurrent came, they were able to find the most suitable route to sneak, and Xiao Yan, who followed closely behind it, also took the opportunity to smooth these magma undercurrents.